Hi everyone, welcome back to MEG Motors. Today we're going to be looking at this Echo line trimmer. I don't know a lot about it. The owner brought it to us. The big problem is the pull starter's not working. So I think this one runs and works, it just can't be started right now. And so we're going to pull the pull starter apart and see what's going on in there. I have a feeling it probably broke some parts. We're going to take it apart, see what's going on in there, and order whatever we need to order to make this pull starter work. So let's get some covers off and see what happened to this one. All right, so we're going to take this big orange cover off first, because I believe that it sits on top of the pull starter. So I don't think we can get the starter off without taking this cover off first. Let's see how many screws we have here. All right, I've got a kill switch wire that's clipped into this cover, so I'm gonna have to take the air cleaner off. I can get in there and unclip those wires. And we gotta get the spark plug wire off. Here we go. All right, so now we're gonna pull the pull starter. It feels like these have some thread locking compound on them. They're coming out relatively hard, but they're coming out. There we go. All right, well, I'm not really seeing what I expected to see. I don't see anything missing or broken. I expected to see these pieces either broken or missing, but they don't seem to be. So for whatever reason, I can hold this piece still, which I'm thinking probably shouldn't happen. So we're going to have to pull this apart and see what's going on inside here. All right, so let's see what's going on in here. We're going to pull this screw out of the middle. Hopefully it's not going to fly apart on us. And then we need to release some tension. Oh, actually, look at there. Huh, there's the problem. Look at that. This spring has broken. Now this is apparently one of those spring-assisted starters, where when you pull the starter, it actually winds up a spring to help with the starting of the tool, and the spring is broken. All right, so it looks like we're going to have to order us a new spring. So let me get that spring on order, and then we'll put this back together and see if it actually runs. All right, so we got our new spring in to replace our broken one. So we're going to see if we can put this back together. See, I temporarily put this back together so I wouldn't lose any pieces while I was waiting for the new spring to come in. Yeah, so this just goes in here with the hooked part in that spot on the recoil reel. And there's a hole right there, which is where I'm assuming the other part of the spring goes. Right up there like that. So now when we pull the handle, we'll wind up that spring and it will move the part it needs to move to actually engage the engine and try to start it. So let's put this back together. And so this no longer spins freely like it did before. All right, so let's get this back on the engine and see if we can make it run. All right, so let's put this back together now. I put a drop of Loctite on each one of these screws. So we're just gonna set this back in place. Okay, so with the starter back on, we can give it a test pull now. Let's see if it turns the engine over. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's, you know what? I think we're far enough back together we can actually do a test and see if this runs. If we end up having to pull the carburetor off of this one, we'd probably need to pull this cover anyway. So let's see if it'll run first before we put this cover back on. Yeah. All right, let me reset the camera so we get a better shot of this and we'll see what happens. All right, so let's see if this runs. It already had fuel in the tank and I pumped the primer and it pumped fuel. So that's all a good sign. Everything seems to be in good shape. So we're gonna put the choke on and we're gonna pull it through a few times and see what happens. Let me see, this has a fixed on-off switch. So the switch is on. Yeah, let's see what happens. Smells flooded. I would have expected it to start by now, but it smells flooded. So I'm going to pull it a few more times to see what happens. All right, well, no luck there. I'll tell you what, let's do. We're going to do a start on spray test. So it smells flooded, but there's a chance that it still may not be getting fuel. So I'm going to spray a little carburetor cleaner in the carburetor, and we'll pull it a few more times and see if it'll start. I really don't expect it to because it smells flooded, but we'll see. Yeah, definitely nothing there. All right, so we're going to pull the spark plug. We're going to check for spark. We need three things to make it run. We need spark and spark at the right time. We need compression and we need fuel. It smells like it's getting plenty of fuel, maybe too much. Feels like it has compression, and so we're going to look for spark next to see if we have a functioning ignition system. So let's get the spark plug out and see what's going on. Alright, so let's get the plug out of here and see what it looks like. Well, if you see the plug here, you can see it's shiny and wet, which is a good sign that it was flooded, like I suspected. We're gonna run a quick test. We're gonna put the spark plug back in the spark plug wire and hold it against the cylinder head and pull it through and see if we see a spark. I've tried this many times with the camera, and the spark doesn't come out on the camera anyway, so you won't be able to see the spark, but I'll well, it's definitely firing, which is a good sign. So it may just be severely flooded. So I'm gonna pull it through a few more times. And then we'll put the plug back in and we'll try again. All right, let's see what happens this time. All right, we're going still wide open choke and wide open throttle. Yeah, still nothing. All right, so we're gonna have to look a little further, I think. I'm gonna look and see if I have a new spark plug. That spark plug looked a little dirty. Didn't look necessarily foul, but it looked dirty. We'll try a new spark plug in it and see if maybe that'll make it kick off. All right, so I had a brand new spark plug that fit, so let's try again, see what happens. Well, still nothing. Maybe now we know why the pulse starter was broke. Somebody must have pulled it so much that it broke the spring. We're gonna, let's see. We're gonna try another test. It feels like the engine's got enough compression. Just based on my experience, it feels like it's got plenty of compression. But one of the things you can do if you suspect a compression problem is to put a little bit of oil in the cylinder, and the oil will help seal the rings in the event that they're leaking a little bit, and it can sometimes provide enough of a bump in compression to make one run when it won't run otherwise. So we're going to do that. We're going to shoot a little oil in the cylinder, pull it a few more times, see what happens. All right, so let's try this again now. So we've addressed most of the problems already, right? We've confirmed it's firing. We've felt that it has compression, and we've put oil in the cylinder to bump the compression. And we've used starter fluid to replace any fuel issues, and it still won't start. So there's a chance that it's firing at the wrong time. If the flywheel, the keyway gets sheared for some reason, can make them fire at the wrong time and it won't start. So that's the next thing we're going to have to check. We're going to have to check the keyway on the flywheel and see if it's been sheared or compromised in some way. So we're going to have to take this one apart a little further and see what's going on. All right, so before we pull this, the front end of this apart to check the flywheel, I wanted to do a sanity check. And so the way the ignition systems on these work is there's two magnets on the flywheel. These right here are magnets. And as the engine rotates, those magnets will, at some point, they're coming up over here on this side right now, they're going to line up with the iron core that's in the coil. And when they line up with that core, they're going to magnetize the core of the coil, and there's going to be a magnetic field surrounding the coil. And then as the magnets move away from the coil, eventually that magnetic field is going to collapse. And when it collapses, there's a lot of wires wrapped around the core. As the magnetic field collapses, it induces an electric charge in the coil, which comes out the wire, of course, and goes to the spark plug. And so we expect for this to fire at the right time, right? One of our criteria is it has to fire, and it has to fire at the right time. We expect these magnets to come by the coil and line up with the coil somewhere around top dead center, preferably before top dead center, because normally we want the spark plug to fire a few degrees before top dead center. And so for a sanity check, I'm going to stick a probe in the cylinder here, and we're going to rotate the engine, and we're going to watch the magnets. And so the piston is coming up right now towards top dead center, and the magnets are just now coming up to the coil. And the engine is actually at top dead center right now, and we only have one coil lined up, or one magnet lined up with the coil. And so I'm pretty sure that at this point the coil, the spark plug, could not have fired. I don't think we've generated the magnetic field in the iron core of the coil yet, so there's no way that the spark plug could have fired. And so the piston is actually on its way down now. And now is when I believe that the magnets are lined up with the coil, and they would be generating the charge, and then about now that field would collapse. And we've already gone past top dead center and started down our stroke. So it appears to me, just a sanity check, that the ignition system is currently set up to fire way too late. And so I'm again suspecting that somehow we've gotten out of time. And so we're going to pull this apart, and we're going to take a look and see what's going on at the flywheel and see if we can figure out why it's doing that. Okay, so the first step, we got to get this shaft out of here. I'm going to break these loose. Then there's going to be a couple of screws in here. There's typically two screws like this that go through an opening in the handle. These 4 screws hold the handle together, but these screws in these openings clamp the handle to the shaft to stop it from rotating. So now the handle is loose on the shaft, and the shaft is loose in the power head, so we should be able to pull all of this apart. All right, and so now, let's see how we're looking. Now we're going to take some screws loose, see if we can get this front cover off. All right, so that gets our front cover off. We have a clutch that we need to remove. And then we'll be able to get our flywheel off. Okay, so to get this clutch off, we have to somehow stop the engine from turning, and so I have this tool here. This screws into the spark plug hole, and this button end here will interfere with the travel of the piston and basically lock the engine in place. So we're going to screw that in first, and then I'm going to take a pair of pliers and see if we can pop this clutch loose. Oh yeah, look at there. That came loose relatively easily. All right, and then we have to get our flywheel to come off. I have another tool that I'm going to use. So there's probably multiple ways to get the flywheel off, but I'm going to take this tool and screw it onto the crankshaft to protect the threads. Then I'm going to take a screwdriver and I'm going to pry up on the flywheel. Right here. And I'm going to hit that tool with a hammer. And that'll usually pop the flywheel loose. And it did in this case. Alright, so here's our flywheel. And surprisingly, we can see the keyway right here. And it looks perfectly fine. And then there's the slot in the crankshaft right here, which also looks perfectly fine. So it's not exactly what I was expecting to find. So again, we can see on the coil, these are the two legs of the iron core of the coil. And so when these magnets line up with those legs of the coil, they'll induce a magnetic charge in that iron core. And unfortunately, so here's our two magnets right here. And again, so you can see that the magnets have not lined up with the coil yet. And the piston is on the way down already. So the ignition, so typically I would expect this to be the phase where it charges the coil and it should fire about there, which is way past top dead center. Gonna have to do a little research on this one and see if I can figure anything out, figure out why it looks so far off. All right, so I've kind of gone round and round with this one, but I think we've finally cracked the nut on it. I found out doing some research that Echo actually uses an intelligent coil, and the coil is capable of altering the ignition timing. It's intended to advance the timing as you increase the RPM. So it'll set the timing to a particular location to aid in starting. And then once it's running, it can alter the timing, and as you advance the throttle, typically as you advance the throttle, you want the timing to occur even further before top dead center to help the engine make power. And so what I believe is happening is this coil has somehow failed, and instead of advancing the timing, it's retarding the timing. Because what we're going to see, so what I've done is I've put a piece of tape on the flywheel and I've marked this location to line up with this pointer right here, and this is top dead center. And so we would expect the coil to fire somewhere around top dead center. And hopefully this is going to come out on camera. Most of the time things that I do with light, like spark tests and timing light stuff, doesn't come out on camera. But what I found is that when I pull the engine through slowly, the ignition occurs at top dead center, just like it's supposed to. But when I pull the start handle quickly, the timing occurs way over here, which is way past top dead center. And so there's no way that it can run firing over here. It would need to fire here or further back this way in order for it to run. You want the spark to occur before top dead center. If it occurs after top dead center, you're not going to make any power. So we're going to try to run a test. I'm going to put my timing light. So I have a timing light set up, and I'm going to put the timing light on, and I'm going to pull it through slowly at first. I'm going to pull it through slowly at first, and we're going to see it fire at just about the right spot. And then I'm going to pull it through quickly, and we're going to see the timing jump to way over here. All right, so let's see if we can make this work. And let's see if you can see it. So here comes a slow speed timing test. And hopefully you'll get a shot in there, and you'll see that we're firing before top dead center. And now I'm going to pull the handle quickly, and we're going to lose that timing mark. And what we're going to see actually is that timing is going to jump way over here. So you can see that the timing, the ignition is happening way over here, which is way past top dead center. And there's no way the engine can run like that. And so what I'm suspecting, obviously nothing's changing with the flywheel, right? So I suspect something's gone wrong with the coil, and when it should be advancing the timing, it's actually retarding the timing. So I've ordered a new coil for it, and we're gonna put a new coil on it, and we're gonna see if that doesn't fix this timing issue that we're seeing, and hopefully make it run. All right, so we have our replacement coil that has come in today. So we're going to see if we made a good guess on what the problem was. This is kind of a new one for me. I wasn't aware that they had small coils like this that had electronics in them that could alter the timing. But so yeah, learning experience for me. So we're going to pull the old coil off. And then we'll put the new one on, and we'll run the same test with a timing light to see if we've done anything to change the way the timing was behaving. And so our new coil is going to mount right back in the same spot where the other one was. And then we have to set the gap between the coil and these magnets. And the gap is not super critical. I have this special card that I got a long time ago when I bought a coil. And so this card is about the thickness that we need between the coil and the magnets. And in reality, it's pretty much a business card. Anything in that general thickness range, even construction paper maybe, or anything that will give you a gap between the flywheel and the magnets, but not too much of a gap. And so we'll just turn the magnets up towards the coil, and the magnets will work through the card here, and they'll set the gap kind of automatically. Then we'll just tighten up the screws. Making sure that it doesn't move. And then we'll take that back out. And then we'll just look and make sure, yeah. Looks fine. Okay, so we're going to set the timing light back up, and we're going to pull this through. Okay, so I have the timing light set up, and we're going to try this again. Remember, Sometimes this kind of stuff doesn't come out well on the camera, but we'll see what happens. So we're going to do a slow pull first. Hopefully you can see that it's firing about where we expected it to. That's the same place it was firing last time on a slow pull. Then we're going to pull fast and see if it stays there or moves. And yeah, it looks much better this time. So before it would fire about here on a slow pull, but advance, or this is actually retarding the timing. It was firing way after top dead center. But now it actually appears to be firing a little bit before top dead center, even on slow, and it's firing about here on a fast pull, which is where it should fire, a few degrees before top dead center. So yeah, I'm encouraged by that, and I think that's probably going to fix this. So we're going to go ahead and put it back together, and we'll try it and see if we can get it to start. All right, so here we go. We're going to hold the throttle open, the choke open, spray a little carburetor cleaner in there. Switch is on. We'll see if we can get it to pop off this time. All right, well, that's a good sign. Obviously, it started. So yeah, fixing the recoil starter was the first step. We got that working, and then replacing the coil, of course, was the big problem. And that was a strange problem. It's the first time I've run into that, so that was interesting to figure that one out. It seems to be running okay, not perfectly. It sounds like it's a little rich at idle. So I'm gonna probably take this out in the yard and use it a little bit and see if it needs more work. Sometimes we don't know how long it's been since this ran, and so sometimes they sit up for a long time. They just need to be run a little bit, and then they'll clean up and they'll start running like they should. So before we do any more work on it, I'm gonna take it out and run it a few times and see how it does out in the yard, and if it needs more work, we'll do another video on that. I think that's probably enough for this video, but yeah, from an initial repair standpoint, I think we can call this one fixed. So I hope that was as interesting for you as it was for me. That was an interesting one for sure to figure out. That one stumped me for a little while. So yeah, that was good. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Check my playlist. There's other videos out there on small engine repair. Most of them are not as difficult to diagnose as this one was, but yeah, this one was a tough one for sure. But like I said, I think we got it fixed. So check my playlist for the videos out there, and yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. We'll see you on the next video.